have the okay. Hey, welcome back, everyone. That was Only Crime with Brand New Scene. Before that, we had Bad Astronaut, Needle in the Hay, Lagwagon, Surviving California, the Jasons, Murder at the Jarvis House, brand new Moldy Roses with Friends, the classic Embrace with Can't Forgive, and brand new Fake Names, It'll Take a Lifetime. And we're actually joined right now by Michael Hampton of Fake Names. Hey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Michael, for coming on and joining us. So we obviously want to talk about Fake Names and, what's going on with you guys. Obviously, I know Brian is just getting done with touring with Bad Religion. So is there a chance, that we might see some shows for you guys?
In 2029, maybe. No, we're actually going to go make another record in March. So that's what
awesome.
we're really focusing on. And we're pretty excited about that because we're all going to be together. And we've got, 15, 20 songs ready to go.
Wow. Okay. So you just had the EP that came out.
Yep.
And which 4 songs, 5 songs?
Three songs, and then 2 of them are making their way onto a vinyl 7-inch.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. And so, I guess this all started with just you and Brian getting together and just start doing some writing. Is that how Fake Names came about?
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of reconnected with Brian a few years ago and went down to his birthday party, and we were shooting the shit. And he said, well, I'm coming up to New York and Bad Religion has some shows, I'll give you a call. And he said, can I come over and do my laundry? And I was like, sure. And he came over, I had my computer up, and he was like, you want to work on something? And I said, sure, why not? I was actually trying to write a Dag Nasty song the other day.
Oh, nice.
And so we wrote 3 songs together, not really knowing what it would be. It was just sort of a fun thing. And, I do music licensing for TV and stuff, and thought maybe this might end up that way, or we could, try to find a singer. And that's what we decided to do. We really liked the songs, and neither of us wanted to pretend to sing, and we went on the hunt for a singer. I was already working with Janney because I'd practiced with him with a couple other people before, so he was in the mix already.
Gotcha. So
but I'd been trying to put together some kind of band for like a decade.
Oh, really?
But it hadn't really worked out. So it took Brian to say, let's do it. You want to do a band? I was like, yes, as a matter of fact, I do want to do a band.
And it's nice because you guys are actually, not that really far away from each other. You're up in Brooklyn. I know he's Jersey Shore.
Yeah, it's an hour away.
Yeah.
When we started this, he wasn't Jersey yet, I don't think.
Oh, no? Okay.
DC then.
And of course, if you live here, like we live at the Jersey Shore, we know it. Yes, it's an hour away, which takes 3 hours.
Yeah.
No matter what time of the day.
I've done it in 55 minutes.
Wow. Oh, you're that guy.
Yeah, no, I'm not actually. I drive safe.
So now you guys technically are a 4-piece. You're just using studio drummers, or what's the
Yeah, we started practicing with this guy when we first started to rehearse, and then recorded with him. He's in a bunch of other bands. And then it just seemed like it might be more flexible and better for us to just use drummers as we needed and just keep it as a 4-piece. He's not really a studio guy. He's more like a, drummer, and
just plays everywhere, wherever
he plays with lots of people.
Yeah.
But that seemed like the easiest thing to do, because logistically this isn't an easy band. The singer apparently lives in Sweden.
Right.
I didn't know that. It's multi-state. Johnny's in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn takes longer to get around Brooklyn than it does to get to the Jersey Shore.
Yes, it does. I have businesses up there that I visit, so I know it's like,
Yeah.
it's an all-day affair, man, just to get around, you know. So now so upcoming, you got new songs that you're working on. Are you going to be using the same drummer for this session? Or?
Well, the songs we did that we put out last year, Brendan Canty played drums
Oh, Brandon. Oh, really? Okay.
from Insurrection and Deadline. You may have heard of those bands.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, the Ghazi.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's playing. He's gonna be playing on this stuff too.
Okay. Cool. I think he was last touring with Bob Mould, right?
He's in a thing called Mesthetics.
Right. Okay.
With Joe Lally.
Oh, okay. All right. So they got another project.
They're an instrumental kind of thing.
Oh, very cool. All right.
Super cool.
Nice. All right.
I think Bob Mould was a few years ago.
Okay. I wasn't sure if he was still playing with him or not. So, so you're just keeping it all kind of DC.
It's all DC except for the Swedish guy.
Right. Except the Swedish guy. Awesome, man.
Who's got a DC vibe, so it's okay.
Oh, he's got a great voice for you guys. You know, I think that's, you know, when I first heard you guys, to me, it was like a sound that's, you know, just hasn't really been, there's not really too many bands, like maybe like Elder Sam I Am or Avail, you know, and that kind of vibe. But it's just not something that's a lot of bands are doing, you know, so.
Well, we didn't really know what we wanted to do. Like at first I wanted to do something that was like off, you know, like super California, kind of like old school. But then we started playing together, and Brian and I love that stuff, but we also love Cheap Trick and the Beatles and Big Star and like all this other stuff. So that we couldn't help but bring that in. And then all of a sudden it's the Damned, and like we're making all these references to, you know, 999 and, you know,
Yeah.
So it's a real amalgamation of what we like, and hopefully it'll come out as not too derivative and not too retro. But it's definitely all our influences out there.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I know you had a couple questions about the going old school.
Always. Hey, Michael, thanks for joining us. When you're talking about, you know, the singer from Sweden or whatnot, and also with the pandemic and having to kind of record in separate studio spaces, if you will, are you still able to vibe? If you're in the studio and everybody's kind of vibing off each other, can you still get a vibe, you know, giving each other the vocal tracks, the percussion, all that stuff? Can you still get some sort of synergy that way?
I think so. And we were pretty happy with the way the EP stuff turned out. And that was cobbled together out of like, you know, home recordings, studio recordings, back and forth to, you know, different studios. Dennis did his vocals in Sweden. Brendan did the drums in DC. And I think it came out cohesively. And I think we talked about it as we were going along, and it seemed, I don't know that you'd know that was necessarily a, you know, not live in the studio, basic tracks kind of recording. So it was an interesting way to work. I don't mind working that way at all. I know some people really like to, you know, work stuff out and jam and stuff, but I'm a little impatient about that stuff. So I'd rather have things worked out at home. I've got a little small home studio, and it's just the way I've worked for years, Porta cassettes and, you know, Pro Tools at home and stuff. So I'm comfortable, you know, sending files back and forth to people too.
And to follow up on that, kind of, do you feel less pressure? Because, you know, if you only have, you know, you only have a studio for X amount of hours for X amount of days, yada, yada, you know,
And
now,
X amount of dollars.
correct. You know, you have this expensive
Yes.
engineer, you know, you can do everything at your leisure at home and kind of pace.
Yeah, I've always just been a fan of the demo recording, you know, because the demo is less pressure, and like even 4 tracks at home, bands doing stuff, and like it's really loose. And then when you get in the studio and the light comes on or whatever, not studios have lights anymore, but you know, you can have, at least for me, I can't replicate what I did off the cuff, you know, and when I try, it's a little harder. So I like the idea of not writing in the studio, being a little more prepared, but also keeping it not as I don't know. It's difficult to minimize the pressure of being in a room at the clock is ticking and you've got this many takes to do. Like when we did the album, we did it together. Dennis did the vocals later, but with us. But we did the basic tracks together, and we did them all in a day. So we were like, "Come on, let's go."
Right.
So there was a lot of work after the fact, sort of like oh well, maybe we should redo that bass part or whatever. So I like the immediacy of the studio, but I also understand that there's a lot of pressure in making it perfect.
Yeah, but you only have so much time.
Yeah.
And there's not that endless amount of tape it
Yeah.
costs,
Yeah.
and nowadays I guess the cost is being incurred by yourselves, right? I mean, so
Yeah. For that stuff. Yeah.
Sure. So
the next one is going to be a little more pro. I think we're going to get a week and work out the songs as we do it. And I mean, they're all pretty demoed up, but
right.
they need to be fleshed out and everything.
So that'd be the first time you guys are playing it collectively.
Yeah.
But you guys all have your parts, that you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to go to the same studio, or were you planning on?
We're going to Asbury Park.
Oh, cool. All right. Awesome, man. What studio is there now?
The name escapes me, to be honest.
I have to look it up.
Yeah. It's Brian. It's where they did Beach Rats.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Brian's worked there a lot.
Yes. God, I
tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I
I
can't.
love the way the Beach Rats single sounded.
Right.
And he really loves the studio, and it was a nice way to all get together and not be commuting. It's sort of like hanging out.
Yeah.
All together.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
It's
COVID willing, we'll be out.
Exactly. I was just about to say that, that's the thing about with Asbury, because of COVID, we've lost a few live venues and the music is obviously getting affected. But that's, it's the thing about Asbury. It's always been like a good hub, so that's cool that you guys are going there, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Michael, you had touched on working in TV and things like that. Is obviously the recording process is different. Do you feel more pressure from the producers of those types of recordings versus conventional band recordings?
Yes and no. It's more comfortable for me if I'm doing it all at home on the computer, and but people have their opinions. They might be like, a lot of it is just shooting in the dark. It's like, what about this? Or like somebody might say, I need something that sounds like this, and you send it to them. They're like, nah, no, it doesn't sound like that. So there's a lot of that kind of pressure, but it's not, but it also doesn't seem as real as a record. And that's sort of why I wanted to get back into doing records. I mean, aside from the fact that there's just a lot less work out there for an uncool middle-aged dude, the band thing, it's just, something I hadn't done in a while, and it's super fun. Different kind of creativity,
What was the last project you had before this? That was
I mean, I've worked on a few things. I've played on some people's records. I did a thing almost 20 years ago called Paco, with these indie people from Ivy.
okay.
And it was kind of it's kind of atmospheric and a little bit trip hoppy.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. All right.
But not much.
All right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about Embrace, if we can.
Sure.
Did you realize at the time what a influential album that was going to be? I mean, because it was just a one time, right? You're right. Exactly.
No, and no. Is it an influential album now? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
album amongst the punk hardcore kids, because it was almost like you guys were at the forefront of starting emo and emocore.
Right.
That album is very highly regarded and well respected amongst the punk kids from that era.
I mean, that was a super weird band in general. And it didn't last long. And, we barely were able to record, and we barely were able to get that out. So for
Really?
me, it's like a little blip of time, but I've listened to it recently, and I like it a lot more than I used to. I mean, I can get into some technicalities about it.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that band started out because I was, after Minor Threat broke up, I was talking to Ian about doing a band, and he was going back and forth. He was also trying to work on stuff with other people. And the first incarnation was of Embrace. What became Embrace was a 3-piece with Jeff Nelson and Ian playing bass. And some of the riffs that end up in Embrace were then. And that didn't work out. Jeff was still in the mix. Ian decided to sing. Chris Bald came in. Then you have Embrace with Jeff Nelson playing drums.
wow.
And he was sort of my dream drummer, to be honest. He was
Really?
like my favorite. It's like him and Chuck Biscuits were about, that was who
Wow.
he could play with anybody,
Yeah.
And then later Dave Grohl, of course, but he was still a small boy then.
Yeah. I think Chuck did play with everybody.
Yeah, I know.
I think a funny list would be who's got more bands, Chuck playing drums or Brian playing guitar? Be a nice
question. Here's a fun fact. I realized that I had been in a band. Maybe it didn't play out, but I've been in bands with every member of Minor Threat except for Steve Hanskin.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm the only one with that claim to fame, I think.
Really? What band were you in with Lyle?
The Extorts.
Okay.
That's where Lyle came from. He was the singer.
Right.
So Ian, being Ian, was like, he sort of would, for his next band, for Minor Threat after Teen Idols, he was picking like, the best like new guys, and then he knew that Lyle wanted to play guitar. He was a great guitar player, and he got Brian to play bass. And that's how Lyle stopped being a singer and became a guitar legend.
Yeah, I guess what Lyle is kind of known for is that his chords, he plays all 6 strings or something.
A full bar chord.
Full bar chord, right?
Yeah.
At that speed. Wow.
Yeah, nobody does that.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
I do 2 strings at a time.
Well,
That's my thing. 2 strings, 3 maybe.
you make it sound wonderful. So
I'm more notey.
yeah. Oh man, I should have worn my Egg Hunt t-shirt.
That's my favorite Dischord record.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I
And when Ian, we were still in Embrace when they went over there and recorded that, and Ian was like, this is kind of a well told story, or often told story, where Ian was like, you better practice while I'm gone.
yeah, because what he went to England.
That's like the last thing we wanted to do. Yeah, he went to Southern Studios in England, and him and Jeff did these 2 songs. He came back and played that. I was like, this is so much better than anything we're gonna do. So go on, and I thought he was gonna do that as a band,
Right. Okay.
pre-Fugazi.
Yeah.
But we were not really getting along, and we didn't really know what we were doing. No one was that into the band.
Okay. Was there any other songs that never made it to the Embrace album? Did you guys have other stuff worked out? Or?
Maybe a little bit. I know we practiced those Egg Hunt songs and maybe some of the earliest riffy Fugazi songs, but the way I couldn't use my imagination, and I was probably pig-headed enough to not know that Ian knew what these could sound like. And so he'd play me the riff and I'd be like, it's kind of heavy metal. I don't know. It's kind of like, it sounds like Humble Pie,
Right.
or something. And then that becomes some like, We All Fall Down or whatever.
Yeah. Wow.
So I couldn't really use my imagination with that stuff then.
Gotcha. But you know, the Embrace, that album, you guys really, especially you listen to it now, it has that classic Dischord sound to the production, right? The guitar on that album is I love it. I think your work on that album is I love that album. So I grew up on it. You know, for me, that album just opened doors musically, because
Well,
it was
thanks.
really nobody was doing that. It was like, okay, everyone, the DC sound, you know, New York sound was getting more of the really hardcore New York bands.
Right.
You got the California, you know, the whole idea of emo was, I think, the fact that lyrically,
Yeah.
you know, everyone started, you guys, Rites of Spring and all those bands, I think you guys started lyrically to change, because everything was anti-government. And all of a sudden, you guys come out, Dag Nasty, and you guys start this whole different, you know, point of view. And I think that's what makes the Embrace album so important. And in a lot of the circles that I hang out with, why that album is so revered as it is.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Oh no, thank you.
You know, we had the songs and we recorded it quickly, and there was some drama in the studio, and it was, you know, not the easiest record to make. And also, I had a lot of ideas, and my next thing, One Last Wish, was to suffer from the same thing, where I had a lot of ideas, but there was no like real producer, and there was no one saying like, well, that riff is good, do that. Don't do that. Lay back there, play, you know. It's like I'm playing all this stuff and then I'm overdubbing stuff on top of it, and it's all up there in the mix. You know, it's like, that's not really the way you do it, you know.
Gotcha, right.
And that might make it a little more, it's a little messy, you know. It's hard to parse out. And Chris is, you know, he's not playing root notes, you know, so he's the lead bass too. So it's there's a lot of melody, and sometimes it conflicts and sometimes it really works. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
That, going back to what you said about having a producer, I mean, that really is such an important part of the recording process. Is it have a captain or a manager?
Well, I think because we were young and inexperienced, like Ian learned how to do this, obviously, but first person we went in with Skip Groff, you know, who ran Yesterday and Today Records and had his own label. And he and Don Zantara, they were like older, and they were our sort of music biz guys, you know, like they knew, well, first you do this, and then you know, this is the way it's done. But we were kind of winging it a little later, not really knowing, you know, just sort of making it up as we went along, because we didn't know, you know.
And that DC scene back then, I mean, it seemed like you guys just had a lot of people in that DC scene. What was it like? Just, I mean, everyone knew each other, everyone was in a band. What was the...
Yeah, everybody knew each other, and then at some point, you know, nobody knew anybody, because, and that was sort of like, you know, by you know, 83 or whatever, it's just, everything was just huge. The shows were big, there were tons of people. And, you know, everyone was wanting to do, like, you know, important music, whatever that is, but we didn't really know how to do it. Like, we used to get together and have meetings, like, what should we do next, you know? And from those things came Rites of Spring and Embrace, you know, like that, those kind of ideas, like, let's do something different. Or like, I can go through it, like the things that I'm trying to put across in the Embrace musically, or like my musical reference points for that are not punk at all. They might be like the Saints, you know, that's about as punk as, you know, Generation X, like, or something like that, but not, it was really a move away from hardcore for me personally.
Michael, what was it like working with Rollins so early in his career, you know, before Black Flag, SST, stuff like that?
You know, he's a great guy, and it was really fun, believe it or not. the other thing, people in DC, the sort of the core early Dischord people, everyone's really funny. It's like there could be stand-up comedians or SNL writers in that group, so it's hard to imagine, but Rollins is pretty funny as Garfield. But he was 5 years older than us. So we were the little band, the Extorts, where Lyle was the singer. Lyle then becomes the guy who's Ian wants in minor threat as guitar player. So we have to find a singer. And then we thought the scariest, coolest looking guy was Henry, but he's like, oh, he's in Black Market Baby, because he always wore a Black Market Baby t-shirt. I was like, he must be in that band. So at some point we worked up the courage to, I think, ask Ian to ask Henry if he wanted to be a singer in our band. And he said yes. And because he was wanting to be a singer, and that's how that came to be. He became the singer for the Extorts, and the rest is history. But the age difference was a big thing. He had his own apartment. I was in the 10th grade,
Wow.
like he had a car, he had money, he had a job, he definitely informed my record collection and my musical taste, because he had even then he had an amazing record collection. And we drive up to Yesterday and Today, and he'd say, oh, get that. Oh, you don't have that? It's Stiff Little Fingers, get that one. So that part he was more like, a much older brother in the band, which caused his problems for him, because he wanted to do shit and we were in, the 10th grade. So when Black Flag came calling, there's like kind of a no-brainer. Like, what do? Join your favorite band, or hang around at Haagen-Dazs and have your band call you Uncle Henry? And we used to ask him for quarters, like to play video games and stuff. he had quarters and we didn't. That's what kind of dynamic we had.
Was going back to that time when Black Flag comes and they take Henry, is that kind of like the starting point to where DC really just started to kind of explode a little bit, or was it really just?
I think it was a little before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, things got big with Minor Threat, really. Like everyone, because they were the the best band, the biggest band. They were good enough that they brought in all kinds of people that were interested in seeing them. I think that was a change. That was a couple years later. So when Henry left for Black Flag, he said, I'm joining this band, but before you say anything, I've lined up your next singer, and it's going to be Alec. I already asked him.
Oh,
He's going to be the new S.O.A. singer. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. And that's how the faith started.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. You got
and kind of going. John always talks about the newer stuff. I always think back, in the day of the DIY, doing tape trading and things like that. I guess you can take the good with the bad now with digital, and you can get your music out there so easily. Do you feel that you lose the connection with the fans and street teams and things like that? I know, like I said, it's easier to get it out there, but do you feel you lose that connection with the people, so to speak?
Not really, because I think in the old days gets romanticized, like, because you have to write away to this address in the back of the magazine to get the thing, and it's so cool. You only have one and no one else has it, which is cool, but it's like, it's pretty limiting. Not a lot of people heard that music. The people that heard the music did stuff, which is really cool. It was a really fascinating time, but I don't think, are you saying it would be devalued or by, the internet's?
Well, John and I usually, we have a discussion. Last week we talked about, analog versus digital, vinyl, things like that. You got that album in your hands, you read the liner notes and stuff, and now, because everything is streaming, do people lose an appreciation for music.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess it depends on the person too, because if you know, my kids stream music. I hate streaming music, but I'm a digital hoarder. I'll go to sites and like, oh, I had that 7-inch when I was 12 and someone digitized it and I'm gonna put it, like I want that on my computer. I've got a hard drive filled with stuff.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
But that's just like I don't know. I think it's cool that there's a resurgence in the physical product.
Yeah,
I think that's a cool thing. I'm really happy that you can still do 7 inches and someone wants them. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been following Doug Carrion, Peter in Field Day, and I just got 45 from them, and I had to email Doug and be like, "Hey, Doug, I can't play this on the show. Is there any way you could send me a digital version? Can you send me the file so I could play it?" And of course, he was like, "Absolutely, man." Because I love the 45. I'm loving the new songs, but I can't put it on the show.
I don't have my hi-fi.
Yeah, I don't have my way to rip vinyl. And lose some of the sound quality. But I still collect vinyl, but in our world, I don't have much use for it other than just enjoying it at home.
Yeah, I still buy a fair amount of vinyl, but I also still buy CDs and then rip them myself, and because that's the format I got used to 20 years ago. The
right
sort of the MP3 that became FLAC or whatever when people got into quality. But that was the forward-thinking technological music library that I had that's now like out of date. Anachronistic and old-timey.
I know. I have where am I going to put my play CDs? I can't play them in my car anymore. They're like the vinyl. They just sit in the one cabinet at home, and every once in a while I'll get nostalgic and I want to hear something, so, but in the car, I'm going to go to a streaming service and hope that they have something that I want to hear,
Like you were talking about last week. Remember, I used to have towers of CDs and, your racks of lit, but, now you're like, oh, I can listen to anything I want just by talking this thing,
Well, that's pretty cool that we can do that. And it's pretty cool that anything you're interested in, if like, oh, I'd like to hear that, you go to YouTube and do you see the clip? It's of Joey Ramone's first band, Sniper. Did you see
Yes, I saw that the other day.
But it just blew me away. It's like the fact that exists, and then somebody put it on YouTube for me to go, wow, is that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
Not to get too negative on the modern world with the I hate streaming talk.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, there are certain bands and stuff's out of print. It's never going to be made again. If I don't find it streaming, I'm kind of screwed. I mean, so stuff that
there's so much stuff that isn't on Spotify.
Right.
I use Spotify, to check things out.
Got
but the way people use YouTube too, just like new band I want to hear, I'll listen to it that way.
Right. And that's, I mean, like for us, like I go to Bandcamp a lot. For new stuff, more.
I like that platform a lot.
That I enjoy their site, because there you could search by genre, and you could find stuff that I'm normally not going to find on Spotify or Amazon Music or Apple.
There's certain labels like Vampy Soul out of Spain and stuff, and that do a lot of weird old soundtracks and stuff that I'm interested in, and that's all up on Bandcamp to download or stream from there.
I like Bandcamp a lot. I like that a lot.
And a lot of things when they have like their suggestions, if you like these guys, you might like these and these and these. I've found a lot of bands just from that, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, that helps. So let's start with the softball questions. Ask some good hard stuff now.
Actually, I do have one.
Bring it on.
All right,
I do have one. I hate Wikipedia because there's a bunch of bullshit in there, but
can you update my page?
Well, there was something in there
they won't let me do it.
there was a tour or something, there was a recording that you were doing and you had to stop in the middle due to your itchy feet.
Itchy feet. I think figure of speech.
What?
I didn't know what that meant. I thought.
Well, if you have itchy feet, it means you want to keep moving. I think somebody English wrote that actually. I like, you know.
You had psoriasis or something.
No, I think it's like you know, putting the horse before the cart, you know, whatever, some kind of expression like that, you know.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Well, because you're not English.
I guess not.
But anyway, someone's got to update that.
Yeah,
There
right.
you go.
Okay, so
Someone out there.
you're starting you're starting a new band.
Wow, this is his favorite.
We
one.
got to find out what Michael would do here.
All right.
All right.
I just started a new band 4 years ago.
Right, you did. That's true. All right, you're starting a new band. You get your
Yeah.
choice. Who's your lead singer?
Hmm.
You can I listen, I have
Like
my
historic
choice.
lead singer, like
Yeah,
you
you
know,
can pick anyone. You can pick anyone.
anybody.
Yeah, who do you want? Who do you want
Hmm.
as your vocalist? And I went,
What kind of band is it?
we'll keep it in the punk genre.
Maybe Dez. Dez is the singer.
Really? Okay.
Maybe.
Funny, Dez is actually playing guitar in my friend's band
Wow.
here, John Caspy and the First Gun.
Uh-huh.
He's been playing guitar with them for like the last 2 years. So yeah.
He's my favorite Black Flag singer.
Really? Okay. All right. All right. So you're obviously playing guitar in the band. Who's in the rest of the band? Who's your bass player?
Maybe Paul Gray from The Damned.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. Drums?
Chuck Biscuits or
Okay.
Dave Grohl.
Another band. for
Okay.
me?
Yeah. All right. Very cool.
Uh,
I would ask who your second guitarist would be, but apparently you already got Brian. So
yeah, if he's busy, I don't know.
well, he's always busy. That guy's been in more bands.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Brian since we were 6 years old, and
Wow.
so I've seen him learn how to play guitar better than anybody else that I've ever met. Really,
Wow.
yeah.
That's very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I think mine was I went old prime HR.
Yes, you did.
Mhm.
I had Brian.
1979 HR.
Yeah,
That
like
would be
yeah, like when you-
Max's Kansas City Video HR. Yes,
peak HR.
I'll go with that.
Or I think peak Jello was another one
Mm.
that we said. I went Bill Stevenson drums.
Right. I remember you did.
Bass. Who did I think I might have had Matt Freeman bass. That's a tough one. I love all the guys in Descendants and all so much. I would just pick Steven and Carl and Bill, and just that would be my band.
All plus one.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Out of all the clubs you played at, Michael, what club had the worst bathroom?
Well, CBGB's, no contest.
No contest.
No contest. I went to a couple places in England and I couldn't believe that there was like a whole literal pipe, like you're in the Himalayas or something, and
the whole
it was just like nothing
Rope
there.
to hold on to. You
Yeah,
hug.
pretty much. But yeah, CBGB's.
yeah. See,
That's worse. I mean, I didn't do a lot of touring in any of my bands, and I haven't played that many shows compared to my contemporaries. But that place was really fucking gross.
how great is the 930 Club? So I've never been.
The old 930 Club,
Yeah.
like the first 930 Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great place. It was a great place to see a band. It had good angles for seeing a band, a good sound. I worked there for a while.
How was that size compared to CB's?
I think it was smaller because CB's was long and narrow.
Right.
know,
Yeah, and you had that
but
weird.
it held a lot of people.
Yeah, and that floor was horrible at CB's. I mean, there were so many holes in that floor over the years. I think I went to one last show about 6 months before they shut down, and it just brought me back to how small and strange that club really was.
Yeah.
So, what about? Let's see. Okay, you're the guitarist in any band. in history.
Mhm.
You're the new guitar player. What band are you? What band are you joining?
Mm.
They ask you to be in.
These are hard. Uh,
John picked the
I don't
monkey.
know.
No, man, the Beatles. How can you not say the Beatles? Come on. Yeah.
I don't know. That's too
Tough
hard.
one.
That's too hard for me.
Right. Okay. Now, as far as like influences for you go, I mean, you said like Henry was really kind of turning you on to stuff, but where were you coming from, at that time?
I grew up listening to the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, classic rock, and then a fair amount of like AM radio, a lot of soul stuff that was on, I love Queen and a whole bunch of Aerosmith was huge for me.
Oh yeah.
From there, I sort of got interested in the idea of the Sex Pistols. I'm not sure why exactly. I read about them somewhere, and this was like in the 6th or 7th grade. And when I started sort of like reading about stuff and something about it, piqued my interest. It was like sort of like the natural progression between like Kiss and like glam stuff into this new, it seemed like, oh, what's that? Check it out.
Yeah.
And it took me a few minutes to get into that music. But when I did, I was the big one, Clash, Ramones, Sex Pistols,
All right.
then later Generation X.
I think Generation X doesn't get as much respect because of, I think they weren't around, which is funny because Sex Pistols weren't really around at all,
Right.
But I think, one album really and a couple other singles. Yeah. But Gen X, I mean, all right, at least you had 3 albums,
Yeah. They were huge for me. That's probably the first Generation X record's probably one of the records I've listened to most ever.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, that, like the Germs GI, that, and like, Rubber Soul or something like those are probably the 3 ones that I've listened to consistently.
Yeah, Gen X, that was big for me. Just the song Promises is maybe, it's just that outro, that guitar solo leading out of that song is just phenomenal. What a great job they did with that album. But
of course, the Bad Brains single, when I got that was a local band that sounded like nothing I'd ever heard. That was a huge thing.
Yeah.
It was sort of, that was, 1980, I think.
Really? Okay. Was that the cassette single?
No, this is the Pay to Come single.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. That original 45, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, more California stuff, the Black Flags single, Germs, of course.
Right.
And then, Henry had like, he was a collector, so he wouldn't just have like one, UK sub 7-inch. He'd have all of them in every variant and 4-inch sleeves, So it was just a way to hear all this stuff that was like newer,
Gotcha. Okay.
I couldn't buy records.
Nice. All right. Cool. Anything you want to add there, John?
No, just thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And,
yeah, man.
Best of luck
Thank
with
you.
the new stuff. Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on and
Anytime.
To hear some new fake names, and maybe when you're recording in Asbury, you play a secret show.
Maybe. You never know.
Tell Brian, hey, come on, man, let's play while we're here.
Yeah.
There's
still confusing.
Still some places left. There's still a couple places left to play down there. And it's only a half-hour ride for me, so
Yeah.
You'll be the first to know.
I'll be the first to show.
There you go.
Awesome, Michael. Thank you so much, man. And again,
thanks for asking.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and keep up the good work with fake names. I'm loving this, and thank you for Embrace. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll talk soon, man. Keep in touch.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Good day,
Michael.
Mike. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
So everyone, that was Michael Ham.